With the green fingers there was one E.A. Bowles, a gardener with an incredible knack for getting things to grow even when the soil wasn't up to much.
He was, in fact, Andrew Parker Bowles' grandfather, and for years after he died, no one was prepared to take on his bountiful gardens and risk getting it wrong. So, alas, they fell into disrepair. But thanks to the National Lottery Fund, that is about to change. Sangeeta Candola went to hear all about the plans for the future.
Gardens at Myddelton House in the heart of Enfield are impressive and inspiring, even on a cold January morning. But in parts the garden is overgrown, neglected and in need of a little TLC. Step in the Heritage Lottery Fund, who've just granted the gardens here £500,000.
This is one of the most special and magical places in London. I mean, if you just listen, you wouldn't even think you're in London. Here we are in the north of Enfield, and Enfield actually is a bit of a gardener's haven. And the reason why this particular space is important, it's the creation of one of the great gardeners of the early half of this century. And he's not somebody who's well known, but there are very few gardens in London which are just the product of one man's imagination.
Gardener and writer E.A. Bowles owned the grounds here and nurtured the gardens for almost a century. Getting the lottery funding is as much about restoring the gardens to their former glory as it is about keeping the Bowles family name alive.
It's brilliant. I mean, really, it's as the head gardener to the happiest day of his life, and I rather agree with him. Because in re-establishing E.A. Bowles' garden as it was 65 years ago, it's a great achievement.
So £487,500 is the amount awarded to Myddelton Gardens. Who better to ask about what changes that will make than senior gardener Brian, who has worked here for over 20 years.
It signals a real renaissance for the garden. This area behind me, for instance, which was the kitchen garden, is going to be restored to a full working Victorian kitchen garden, something hopefully along the lines of the Lost Gardens of Helligan. So this was Mr. Bowles' pergola garden. Here you can see some old paving slabs. Some of them were from old Clerkenwell streets that were 200 years old when they were brought here. These are going to be lifted and relaid.
Another massive part of the restoration is, of course, this, which was taken from Enfield Market.
Yes, this is the old Enfield Market cross, removed in 1904. Bowles heard about it in an old builder's yard and had it brought here, and so saved it as a centrepiece for his rose garden.
E.A. Bowles was one of the greatest gardeners of the 20th century. His garden may have outlived and outgrown him, but with time and money it's now hoped it can be restored. Sangeeta Candola, London Tonight, Enfield.
What a beautiful report and a beautiful garden. Now, Robin is here.
Speaking of beautiful.